The call of remembrance does not arrive like a bell ringing or a shock that forces you awake. It comes through the silence of a very small moment. A moment when you feel something that does not exist on the surface but is moving in a deeper layer of the soul. You cannot name it. You only know that there is a very slight shift in reality. A thin breeze passes through your awareness, and you realize that for a long time you have no longer belonged to the old story. That moment is not the beginning of a journey, but a reminder that the journey has existed long before you entered this life. It is the signal that opens the first gate, a call, a remembrance. Every soul carries a map that the mind cannot see. You are not lost. You are simply stepping into the exact part of the map you were not aware enough to understand before. Sometimes the call appears when you stand at a crossroads. Sometimes it comes in the moment you feel exhausted by the life you built with your own hands. Sometimes it comes from an event that seems random, a glance, a dream, a sentence you overhear in a moment that appears meaningless. But no moment is meaningless. All of them are pathways designed with precision. The call of remembrance appears when the soul is ready, not when life is smooth or when you are unstable. It appears when your frequency matches the invitation of the field. No one can force you to hear it. No one can awaken you before the time arrives. Because this is not an awakening from outside. This is memory rising from the highest point of the soul journey. You do not wake up because the world changes. You wake up because a part of your inner being can no longer stay asleep. Some people hear this call in peace. Some hear it in pain. Some hear it when they have reached the edge of confusion and believe that every door has closed. But the truth is, no door has closed. You are simply stepping into a level of awareness that the old mind does not have enough data to process, that makes you feel as if your life is falling apart. But in truth, this is the moment when the map opens, when the things that once gave you safety begin to collapse, when relationships, dreams, and old goals no longer give you a sense of belonging, when everything that used to define you begins to lose its weight. That is the moment when the call becomes clearest. The call of remembrance does not come to ask you to change yourself. It comes to remind you that you were never limited by yourself. The world once taught you that you need to become someone to be recognized. This call reminds you that you already carry everything. You do not need to reach anything. You only need to remember. Remember that you are not the story life assigned to you. Remember that you are not defined by failures or successes. Remember that you are not bound by what has happened. You are the one who traveled through all of it and is still standing here. This call does not speak in the language of thought. It speaks through vibration, through feeling, through intuition. There are things in your life you have never been able to explain. Why you feel some places are familiar even though you have never been there. Why you meet someone and recognize them even though you have never met. Why you look at the night sky and feel as if you are returning home. That is not a sign of the mind. That is the memory of the soul, the remembering of your original essence. You are not lost in this world. This world is rearranging itself so you can remember your place in it. Everything that once hurt you was not a mistake. It was a path you had to walk to reach the exact moment when the call could be delivered. When you no longer live by reaction but begin to live by awareness. When you no longer ask what is wrong with your life but begin to ask what is opening. When you no longer look at the past as a burden but see it as the level you have already surpassed. This is the moment you step out of the old storyline. This is the moment your soul shifts frequency and reality begins to respond. You start to see signs everywhere, repeating numbers, coincidences, invisible reminders. This is the language of the field, the language of things the old mind cannot understand. You do not need to explain it. You only need to feel it. Because this call does not ask you to analyze, it asks you to enter. The call of remembrance is the moment you face the greatest truth of your life. You did not come here to live as someone who is searching. You came here to remember that you are the journey itself. You do not need to wait for another sign. You are the sign. When you look back on the years behind you, you will see that everything has led you to this moment. Every choice, every unfinished dream, every time you stood back up after collapsing, all of it was preparing you for this, remembering you do not hear the call with your ears. You hear it through the movement of the soul. When you feel something shifting in silence, When you feel you are no longer the person you were yesterday. When you feel another layer of reality opening within you. That is the call. It does not need to prove anything. It only needs you to realize it has always been there. The call of remembrance does not ask you to chase anything new. It only asks you to release what no longer belongs to you. Old beliefs, old versions, old limits. When you release, the field opens. When you step into remembrance, life is no longer random. It becomes the precise orchestration of the soul. And in that moment, you realize the truth you have always known. You did not come here to find the way. You came here to return. Entering the field does not begin when you see changes on the outside. It begins the moment you realize that reality is not only what is happening in front of you, it is a hidden layer of operation beneath the surface. Like an invisible current connecting everything humans assume is unrelated, the field is not a place. It has no location, no boundary, no door to open or step through. The field is the operating mechanism of the universe. It is the level of awareness where energy responds to energy, where thoughts take form, where the memory of the soul responds to you through the precise arrangement of reality. What makes the field mysterious is not that it is difficult to understand, it is that it is so obvious that the old mind refuses to accept it. Since childhood, you were taught that the world is physical, material, events, logic, but that is only a very small slice of the truth. Most of what shapes your life lies in the field. Every choice, every emotion, every thought, every vibration creates a response in the field, and that becomes the reality you are living. You are not bound by circumstances. You are living in the frequency that you yourself generate. Entering the field is the moment you stop looking at life as something happening to you. You begin to look at life as something responding to you. When you understand this, everything changes. The things that once broke you no longer hold power. The things that once frightened you no longer control you. You realize that you are not only a participant in this reality, you are the one influencing it every single second. The field is always present around you. You have felt it many times in your life. When you think of someone and they suddenly appear. When you decide to step away from something and a new door opens right after. When you notice events repeating in a way so precise you cannot call it chance. These are not coincidences. This is the field operating. The field is not magic. It is the natural structure of reality. Entering the field does not require you to believe in anything. It only requires you to pay attention. The field speaks through energy. It sends signals in the form of sensations, intuitions, synchronicities, and perfectly timed occurrences. It does not need you to explain it. It only needs you to notice. You do not prove the field with thought. You witness the field with presence. You have been standing at the edge of the field for a long time without realizing it. Every time you feel yourself about to step into a new chapter of life, that is the field adjusting frequency. Every time an old belief falls away, that is the field clearing the path. Every time you feel something calling you forward, that is the field opening its door. And every time you choose intuition over fear, you step deeper into the field. The field does not care who you are, where you come from, how many times you have failed, or what condition you are in. It only responds to the frequency you emit. When you carry fear, reality contracts. When you carry trust, reality expands. When you hold doubt, everything pauses. When you step into understanding, everything begins to shift. The field operates exactly like a quantum mirror. It does not reflect your image. It reflects your frequency. Entering the field is the moment you understand that you cannot deceive the field with words or surface-level positive thinking. The field does not respond to language. It responds to vibration. Saying that everything will be fine does not change the field. But when your heart truly enters peace, the world reflects it immediately. The field reads the truth inside you with precision, and nothing can hide your frequency from it. Some people spend their entire lives outside the field because they only look at the world with their eyes. They only believe in what can be measured. But the greatest things in life always begin with what cannot be seen. Belief, intuition, destiny, the feeling of belonging, the urge to move forward, the desire to become a different version of yourself. All of these originate in the field. The physical world is only the final step of the process. The field is the first step. When you step into the field, you begin to look at life differently. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this trying to show me? You no longer ask, when will I have what I want? You ask, how do I match the frequency of it? You no longer resist life. You move with its flow. You no longer cling to control. You begin to shift into alignment. You understand that reality is not something you chase. It is something responding to you. Entering the field is the moment you become the one who rewrites your own script. You no longer search for signs because you have become the sign. You begin to recognize the layers of operation you once overlooked because the old mind was too loud to hear them. You see the subtle movements of reality, and you understand that everything is being arranged to lead you toward your new version. No wrong step, no detour, no wasted second. The field always wants you to enter. It does not resist you. It does not test you. It does not make you prove anything. It only asks you to acknowledge one simple truth. You are not living in a physical world. You are living in an energetic one. And that energy is always responding to you. When you change your frequency, reality changes. When you change your belief, the outcome changes. When you change yourself, the world shifts with you. If you are hearing these words and feel something touching inside you, that is the field responding. It is not a vague feeling. It is a signal. Take 1 second to step fully into the present. Feel the presence of the field around you. All the noise of the outside world fades as you begin listening from within. The field does not need to be understood. It only needs to be recognized. When you are ready to enter the field, you will notice that the old questions lose their weight. The old worries lose their meaning. You do not need to wait for certainty. You only need to step across the boundary of doubt. The field does not require you to know how. It only requires you to open to the possibility. If you are feeling this shift in your body, leave a like to let me know you are truly connecting with the field. If you have ever felt the field in your life, leave a short comment about the clearest signal you have ever received. This not only confirms your own connection, it also opens the field for others stepping into this journey. You are not outside the field. You only need to realize that you have always been inside it. When awareness changes, reality changes. When you enter the field, everything begins to align with your frequency. And that is the moment you are no longer someone waiting for life to change. You become the one who activates it. The law of the inner current is not a rule of spirituality or ancient philosophy. It is the actual operating mechanism of reality. Everything you are living today originates from an inner current you have unconsciously built through every choice, every fear, every belief. That current always moves before events appear, before circumstances form, and even before you are aware of what you are creating. The world does not respond to your words. It responds to your inner state. If your inner world is chaotic, reality becomes unpredictable. If your inner world is trusting, everything becomes smooth. If your inner world is filled with doubt, good things stand outside and stop at the threshold. Life never begins from the outside. It always begins from within. You once believed that circumstances pushed you towards some kind of future, but the truth is the inner current had taken you there long before. A person who lives in fear always meets situations that amplify more fear. A person who lives in lack always encounters events that force them to chase after enoughness. A person who lives in freedom always meets doors that open at the right time. All of these are responses from the field to the energy flowing inside. You cannot expect a different life if the inner frequency remains the same. Everyone wants to change the outcome, but very few are willing to change the current that creates that outcome. The inner current is not a passing emotion or the thoughts you repeat every day. It is a deeper layer where unconscious beliefs shape behaviors you do not notice. When you carry the belief that you are not worthy, you choose paths that make you smaller. When you carry doubt, you remain stuck between half-hearted decisions. When you enter life with confidence, you no longer need the world to prove anything to you. You become the source of it. The law of the inner current teaches one simple truth. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Those who do not understand this law always try to change their life through action. They do more, run faster, try to control everything. But when the source inside remains at the old frequency, all effort becomes a way of prolonging the same reality. You cannot write a new story if inside you are still the character of the old one. Every lasting change begins from the inner current. There are days you wake up feeling that everything is wrong. The inner current is signaling that an old layer is trying to fall away. You do not need to fight that feeling. You do not need to rush to fix it. Look at it. Let it show you what you are emitting. When you are conscious enough to witness the inner current, you begin to have the power to direct it. People who live awakened are not free from darkness. They are awakened because they see where the current is leading them and they know when to shift direction. The inner current is shaped by three elements. What you believe is true, what you feel is true, what you react to is true. None of these elements is random. They are the result of old experiences, old wounds, memories the mind thinks it has forgotten, but the soul has never released. When you understand this, you stop trying to change life from the surface. You begin to adjust the core current. Many people fail to create what they want because they only update their thoughts. They think positively, they repeat affirmations, they write goals, but the inner current remains fear, doubt, lack of trust. This is why the outcome does not change. Not because they lack ability, but because they are trying to change the future with an energy that still originates from the past. The law of the inner current gives you a different choice. If you change the starting point, the entire path will change. No river ever flows in the wrong direction. It always flows toward the place that matches its frequency. You are the same. When you hold a belief in your consciousness, you set the direction for your life. When you hold an unhealed wound, you push yourself into repeated lessons. When you hold a bigger image of yourself, you open the door to a different reality. Everything on the outside is only the final result. The inner current is where everything begins. The law of the inner current does not require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be honest with yourself. When you feel exhausted from over-effort, that is the current of control. When everything feels aligned, that is the current of trust. When you feel stuck, that is the current of fear. Each inner state has its own voice, and your task is not to deny or escape it. Your task is to look directly at it and ask the only question that can change everything. Where is this current trying to take me? There are moments when life pushes you into a turn you did not want, did not plan, or are not ready for. That is not the cruelty of the universe. That is the precision of the field. When your inner current no longer matches the place you are standing, life will recalibrate itself. Old doors close not to punish you. They close so you cannot return to your old self. When life changes so quickly that you cannot react in time, that is when the inner current is being reset. The inner current never lies. It always takes you exactly where you need to be. When you begin to observe yourself, you will see that reality always follows frequency. One small shift inside is enough to create an entirely different reality. You do not need to destroy your whole life to recreate it. You only need to change the direction of the current in your consciousness. One small decision, one new awareness, one new belief. The current will carve its own path. The law of the inner current teaches only one thing. When you change within, the world has no choice but to change with you. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to wait for luck. You only need to step into the new current of your being. And from that moment on, life no longer happens to you. It happens because of you. The mirror of reality does not reflect your face. It reflects the energetic layer you are living with. Every moment in your life does not occur to test you or to make things difficult for you. It appears as a mirror showing with precision what is happening inside that you often do not see. When you understand this, you begin to look at reality with the eyes of an observer, no longer being pulled into events. You begin to realize that the world is not working against you. The world is speaking the same truth your soul has always known. Reality never appears at random. It is the final product of deeper layers of awareness. When you are drawn to old problems, old people, repeating situations, That is not a cruel destiny. It is the field reflecting the truth you need to face. Everything you fear is not a challenge from the outside. It is the reflection of inner barriers you have not released. Everything you desire is not a gift waiting in the future. It is a signal from your higher self. Reality is simply helping you see your true nature. When you begin to read this mirror, you no longer ask, "Why is this happening?" You ask, "What is it showing within me?" When a relationship breaks, the field is showing you where you abandoned yourself or where you lived through fear. When an opportunity appears, the field is showing you that you are ready to step into a higher layer. When life pushes you into an unfamiliar path, the field is saying you have outgrown the old limits. Every circumstance is only the surface. What is truly operating behind it is reflection. The mirror of reality never gets it wrong. It only responds to the frequency you carry. You cannot receive a reality of abundance when your heart is still tied to beliefs of lack. You cannot receive love when your heart is heavy with doubt. You cannot step into freedom when your mind is still bound to the past. Reality does not reflect your wishes. It reflects your version. And that is why you do not need to try to change the world. You only need to change how you are showing up within it. Some people live their entire lives inside repeating loops. They believe life is unfair, but the truth is, they are looking into the same mirror without changing the image. When you resist reality, you are resisting your own reflection. When you complain about life, you are complaining about your own signal. When you blame others, you are denying that the mirror is only doing its job. Reality is not the enemy, it is the message. The mirror of reality is also never static. It shifts with every breath you take. One small change inside is enough to create a major shift outside. When you begin to choose differently, speak differently, react differently, the world responds immediately. You do not need to wait until everything is perfect to see results. The moment you enter a different frequency, reality begins to adjust. Everything in your life is a reflection. The work you do, the people who appear around you, the opportunities, the obstacles, the signs, all of them reflect the frequency you emit. There are moments when this mirror reflects things that make you uncomfortable. It pushes you to look at fears, shortcomings, and limitations you have avoided. This is not judgment. This is the mechanism of healing. The field does not hurt you. It makes you see. When you refuse to look at the mirror, you remain stuck in the same layer of reality. But when you are brave enough to face that reflection, you release the old frequency and step into inner freedom. Reality always follows you. It moves and shifts like water reflecting the sky. When the mind changes, the inner sky changes color, and the water reflects it. When you realize this, you stop trying to control the outside. You turn inward. You become the one who directs the reflection. You are no longer a victim of the mirror. You become the designer. The mirror of reality is also an opportunity to see the talents, strengths, and potential you once forgot. When you move through darkness, reality reflects back the light. When you step out of old limits, reality reflects a new path. When you dare to change inside, the world cannot remain the same. It must move with you. This is how the field operates, never the other way around. No reflection is useless. Everything you see is leading you back to your true self. Old pains are reminders that you are ready to rise beyond them. The things that hurt you are mirrors showing where you need healing. The things that make you feel a sense of belonging are reflections of the version you are stepping into. When you look at the mirror with awareness, you decode the entire message of your life. The mirror of reality reveals one of the greatest truths of awakening. You do not need to chase answers. Every answer is already in front of you. You do not need to search for a path. The path is reflecting itself in every event. You do not need to wait for change. Change appears at the exact moment you look into the reflection and choose to shift into a different frequency. And in that moment, you understand that reality never opposed you. It was only waiting for you to recognize yourself. The discipline of thought is not about trying to control every thought that appears in your mind. It is the art of mastering the deeper layer where thoughts are born. Most people believe that thoughts are free, random, reactive. But the truth is, thoughts are created by an invisible inner structure you have built over many years. That structure is belief, memory, fear, and the experiences that shaped who you are. When you do not master this structure, thoughts operate you. When you understand and train it, thoughts become the tool that leads you into a new reality. The discipline of thought begins with a simple truth. Not every thought deserves your attention. The mind creates thoughts the way the ocean creates waves, constantly, endlessly, and sometimes chaotically. But a person who masters their thoughts does not stand below the water waiting for every wave to pull them under. They stand above, observing, choosing, and deciding. Not every wave needs to be followed. Not every thought needs to be believed. Your power does not lie in thinking less. It lies in knowing what to keep and what to let pass. Some people live their entire lives only reacting to thoughts. Wherever thoughts pull them, they go. When thoughts tell them to fear, they fear. When thoughts tell them they will fail, they surrender. When thoughts tell them they are not enough, they believe it. When you let thoughts control you, your life becomes the outcome of unconscious reactions. But when you become the one who decides which thoughts get nourished, you are no longer a victim of the mind. You become the one who directs reality. The discipline of thought is the ability to stand inside your own mind with awareness, not being pulled into old stories, not letting old memories write the next chapter of your fate. When a thought appears, you do not need to ask where it came from. You only need to ask where it is taking you. A thought is a command sent into the field. Every thought is a seed planted into the future. When you think in fear, you are writing the command for reality to reflect that fear. When you think in trust, you open the path for new doors. When you think in limitation, you lock out everything trying to reach you. And when you think in awareness, you free yourself. No one can discipline their thoughts while letting the mind operate from old habits. The habit of fighting, the habit of doubting, the habit of negativity. Many people think they are thinking, but in truth they are repeating mental patterns that society, family, and the past have embedded in them. They are not truly thinking. They are being operated by thought. The discipline of thought breaks that loop through awareness. A thought cannot control you when you are looking directly at it. When you begin to discipline your thoughts, you do not try to push negative thoughts away. You do not need to fight them. You only need to look at them as you would look at an uninvited guest. They appear, but you do not open the door for them to enter. Presence is the key. When you stand in presence, thought is no longer the master. It becomes a signal showing that the mind is operating from an old layer. And that is the moment you choose a new direction for your thinking. The discipline of thought is also not about turning the mind into emptiness. It is bringing the mind into a state of clarity, sharpness, and intention. When you direct your thoughts toward what you want to create, the field begins to arrange reality based on that. Thought does not only influence emotion, it is the source of action. Action creates results, and results create life. Thought is the starting point of everything. Some people believe positive thinking is the solution, but positive thinking without awareness is only a mask of fear. The discipline of thought does not require you to always be positive. It requires you to be honest. When you are hurting, look at the pain and ask what it is trying to show you. When you are afraid, do not try to deny the fear. Ask what belief it is coming from. When you are confused, do not run. Ask what it is asking you to change. Thought is not something to avoid. Thought is something that opens a new layer of awareness. The discipline of thought is the process of resetting the mental mechanism. Every thought you choose is a step in recalibrating the inner current. When you maintain this, automatic reactions begin to dissolve. You no longer react emotionally without thinking. You no longer let instinct pull you into fear. You no longer let the mind control you. You become the one leading. There are moments in life when you feel you are standing at a threshold. A new thought can open a new chapter. A new awareness can shift your reality. A small decision can move your entire life. The discipline of thought is the ability to choose the thought that opens the new door. instead of sinking back into old pathways. When you choose the thought in the right direction, you are rewriting reality with your own frequency. The discipline of thought leads you to the most important truth. Reality is not created by the events that happen to you. It is created by the thoughts you nourish each day, the thoughts you repeat, the thoughts you believe are true, the thoughts you place into the field. When you understand this, you become the one holding the pen to write your story. You are no longer pulled by what happens. You pull reality toward your frequency. Your power does not lie in thinking less or thinking more. Your power lies in knowing what deserves to be thought about and what deserves to be left behind. When you discipline your thoughts, you are disciplining your entire life. And that is the moment you no longer live unconsciously. You live with awareness, you live with choice, you live as your higher self. The gate of silence is not a place where you search for quiet on the outside. It is the doorway into the deepest layer of awareness, where the noise of the mind stops and truth begins to speak. Most people seek answers by talking more, analyzing more, trying to control, explain, and understand everything happening to them. But the more they search through noise, the further they drift from the core. Because the real answer has never lived in the noise. It has always lived behind silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the collapse of echoes from the past and the future. Silence is the moment when every reaction of the old mind stops. When you stand at the gate of silence, you no longer hear the ego trying to speak, the voice of fear, or the whispers of doubt. You are left with the pure truth of the field. And in that moment, you realize that you never needed certainty. You only needed presence. The gate of silence does not open through effort. It opens through surrender. Humans often fear silence because in silence they must face themselves. When there are no words or actions to hide behind, everything unhealed begins to rise. Old memories, old wounds, forgotten emotions appear. Many people run away from silence because they think silence is emptiness. But the truth is, only in silence can you hear what the soul is trying to say. Silence is where the field transmits its strongest messages. When all outside noise disappears, you begin to hear signals coming from within. An intuition arises, a fleeting image. Knowing that does not come from thought. You do not analyze, you do not compare, you do not try to make it logical, you simply receive. Silence is the gate that allows you to step out of the physical world and enter the realm of deeper awareness. The gate of silence is also where you begin to see the limits of the mind. The mind is a brilliant tool for solving problems, but it cannot lead you to awakening. The mind is bound by the rules it created. It only understands what it knows. It only believes what it has experienced. In silence, the mind is no longer the guide. The soul becomes the guide. And when the soul leads, you no longer look at the world through logic. You look through awareness. What makes silence powerful is that it never lies. In quiet, you see the truth you usually avoid. You see where you are stuck. You see what you need to release. You see what you have held on to for too long. You see what you have ignored. Silence does not force you to look at the truth. It simply reflects it. And that reflection is enough for you to change everything. The gate of silence is not where the mind rests. It is where the mind is reset. When you stay in silence long enough, the inner conflict dissolves. You no longer fight thoughts. You no longer resist emotions. You no longer try to fix or control anything. You become the observer. This moment becomes the foundation of new awareness. Silence is also the gateway of healing. No wound is healed through denial or avoidance. It is healed by being seen. When you enter silence, you give the wound space to deliver its final message. You do not force it to leave. You step into presence, and in that presence, everything releases. Pain is no longer the enemy. It becomes the message guiding you to a deeper layer of yourself. The gate of silence does not disconnect you from the world. It helps you see the world with new eyes. When you step out of silence, you no longer react to small things. You do not let the mind decide your life. You choose to respond with clarity. You realize that every external event is only a reflection of internal transformation. You no longer fear change. You become the change. Silence is also where you connect to the field in the strongest way. When you stop searching for answers, answers find you. When you stop trying, energy begins to arrange itself. When you stop forcing, everything begins to fall into place. Silence is the surrender of the ego, but it is not weakness. It is the strength of trust. It is the choice to stand in the position of the observer and let the field operate with precision. The gate of silence teaches you that you do not need outside validation to know you're on the right path. You do not need applause. You do not need approval. You do not need to prove anything. In silence, you are connected to something greater, and that knowing opens the door to the next chapter of your journey. Everyone is invited to enter this gate, but not everyone dares to walk through, because silence requires courage greater than any battle. But once you enter, you find what the outside world could never give you. Peace does not come from control or victory. It comes from the moment you realize there is nothing to prove, nothing to fear, nothing to hold on to. The gate of silence does not end in emptiness. It ends in return. Return to your original essence. Return to clarity. Return to your true frequency. When you walk through this gate, you are no longer led by outside noise. You begin to live by the inner call. And that is the path that leads you into the deeper layers of the field. Time is not a straight line carrying you forward. It is an invisible architecture spiraling around you. Humans often believe that time moves in only two directions, either forward or backward. But when you enter the field, you realize time never moves in just one direction. It folds, opens, repeats, and upgrades. Every moment that has ever happened is still existing right now in another layer of your being. You are not running from the past, nor moving toward the future. You are standing at the intersection where all moments converge. Time is the architecture of repetition. A lesson unlearned will return with a new face. A wound unhealed will appear in another form. A missed opportunity will find you in the next rotation. These loops make many people think they are stuck, but in truth, they are climbing higher along a spiral, returning to the same point from a different level of awareness. No repetition is meaningless. No return is a setback. Every time the spiral appears, it asks you only one question. Are you ready for the higher level of awareness? The architecture of time is built on cycles. The sun rises and sets. Spring arrives and leaves. Breath enters and exits the body. These cycles do not exist to remind you of limitation. They exist to remind you that everything in the field moves in the rhythm of opening and returning. Every victory has an origin point. Every ending is the signal of a new beginning. Time does not force you to an ending. It leads you to a realization. Time is not your enemy. It is the guiding structure. In the field, time is no longer a clock or a calendar. It becomes a message. A delay is not an obstacle. It is a rearrangement bringing everything into place. An abrupt ending is not a full stop. It is an invitation to step into a new layer. When you understand the architecture of time, you no longer fear disruption. You see the logic of the field in every movement. Time always asks you one thing. Are you operating in loops or in spirals? A loop is when you move in fear. A spiral is when you move forward in awareness. When you repeat an old lesson with acceptance, presence, and a larger version of yourself, you have stepped into the next spiral. When you repeat through avoidance and denial, you are only running in a loop. The field never forces you to move upward. It only offers you a choice. And that choice is always in your hands. The architecture of time is also where you begin to see that the past has never disappeared. It has only shifted its vibration. An old story can be healed in the present moment. A wound from another time can become strength in this one. When you change your awareness, you change your memory. You do not go back to fix the past. You change its shape in the present, and the past transforms instantly. To understand time is to understand that everything arrives exactly when it must, not earlier and not later. The conditions of the field are not designed to make you wait. They are designed to ripen you. Some gates open only when the inner self has transformed. Some opportunities appear only when you step into the right frequency. Many people think the timing is wrong, but the truth is their being is not yet aligned. The architecture of time also carries the art of delay. Not everything you want should arrive immediately. If everything appeared the moment you asked for it, awareness would never expand. Sometimes slowness is a form of protection. Sometimes delay is the field keeping you from a door that is not ready to open. You are not being rejected, you are being aligned. Time is the field system to ensure you do not miss the lessons of the soul, but it is also the system ensuring you never stay stuck. Every cycle brings you back to a new choice. Move forward or stop. Heal or deny. Rise or fall. No spiral is a punishment. It is simply the field reminding you that you are standing at the exact point of evolution. When you step into the depth of time, you realize that the future does not exist independently. It is already written in the choices you make in the present. A small decision can become a turning point of the entire timeline. A simple thought can become a doorway to another reality. The architecture of time is not a chain of dates. It is a chain of choices. Time is also where you see that nothing comes by coincidence. The people who appear, the synchronicities, the opportunities that look accidental, all of them are signals of timelines aligning. When you touch the right frequency, the aligned timeline begins to merge. You think you are meeting the right person at the right time. But the truth is, both timelines met long before. The architecture of time teaches you to view every event as a doorway. When you stand before a challenge, you are standing at a vortex of time. If you step through, you leave the old loop. If you stop, the loop begins again at a lower layer, because time does not ask what you want. Time asks who you have become. Awareness is the key that opens the architecture of time. Once awareness transforms, time changes its shape. You no longer look at the future with fear. You look at it with the certainty of the soul. You no longer look at the past with regret. You look at it as the doorway that brought you here. And you no longer look at the present as a small moment. You see it as the center where all realities are happening at once. Time is not complicated. It is perfect. It is the field system for guiding you back to your true self. It never makes mistakes. It is never slow. It never misses anything. When you understand the architecture of time, you no longer race against life. You move with the rhythm of the field. And in that moment, you step into the position of the creator of your own timeline. The veil does not appear to hide the truth from you. It appears to test whether you dare to walk through it. Humans enter the physical world carrying the veil of forgetting. They forget their nature, forget their origin, forget that they are part of the field, forget that they are never separated from the creative energy. Forgetting is not a mistake. It is the condition of awakening. If you were born remembering everything, this journey would not exist. There would be no reason to awaken if you had never fallen asleep. The veil makes you believe that life is a fragmented map, that experiences are random, that fears are real, that limits are absolute. But as you move closer, you see the veil is not a wall. It is a door waiting for you to open. This door does not open through logic or knowledge. It opens when you dare to ask the truest questions. Who am I really? Why am I here? What is calling me forward? The awakening is not the moment you learn more knowledge or skills. It begins the moment you doubt the old story. A deep part of you looks at your life and realizes something is not right. A restlessness you cannot name, a pull you cannot ignore, a feeling that you no longer belong to your old way of living. This is the first signal of awakening. It is the invitation of the field. The veil makes you believe you are only this body. Awakening makes you realize you are living in a body, but you are not that body. The veil makes you believe what the world says about you. Awakening lets you see that every definition is temporary. The veil makes you see life as a battle for survival. Awakening shows you that every experience is a lesson of the soul. When the veil begins to shake, you no longer see life through the physical eyes. You begin to see through awareness. The veil and the awakening are two sides of the same journey. Without the veil, there is no return. Without darkness, light cannot reveal its strength. The strongest souls do not come to avoid forgetting. They come to transcend it. They come to detach from the storyline of the physical world and remember their true frequency. So never see forgetting as failure. It is only the first chapter of remembering. Awakening does not happen in thunder. It arrives like the whisper of intuition, a sentence that changes how you see things, an event that makes you question reality, a dream that makes you feel something beyond what your eyes can see. These moments are not random. They are the first cracks in the veil. When you pay attention to them, the veil begins to fall away one layer at a time. Humans think awakening is a breakthrough, but in truth, it is a process of removing limiting beliefs, removing anxiety, removing the story you were taught since childhood, removing the role you thought you had to play. As each layer falls, you begin to see your true essence. You see that you were never small, you were never powerless, you were never lacking anything. Everything was only dust covering the memory of your soul. The veil makes you believe you must be worthy to touch the field. Awakening makes you understand you have always belonged to it. You were never separated from that energy for even a moment. You do not need to find connection. You only need to remember that connection was never lost. The field does not require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be present. One of the strongest signs of awakening is when you begin to see the world with the awareness of an observer. You no longer react from instinct. You no longer follow the voice of fear. You look at an event, a sentence, a situation, and recognize the layer of lesson behind it. And in that moment, you step from being the one pulled into the story to the one rewriting it. The veil also creates the illusion that you have only one path. But when awakening unfolds, you begin to see parallel timelines. You see that every choice opens a door. You see that the future is not determined by fate, but by awareness. The veil makes you believe life is a prison. Awakening makes you realize every door opens from the inside. Awakening is not the end. It is only the first gate. When you walk through it, you begin to see how the field operates. You feel the arrangement of energy. You see the signs you once ignored. You realize nothing appears without meaning. The veil no longer frightens you. It becomes the sign of a new chapter opening. The field always knows who is ready, not through words, but through vibration. When your frequency changes, the veil begins to thin. When your awareness expands, you see light shining through the cracks of the old story. And when the moment arrives, the veil falls, not through force. It falls through certainty, through awakening. Awakening is the gift for those who dare to question and dare to look at the truth. If you feel this in your heart, if a part of you vibrates as you hear these words, share this journey with those who need it. Because together, we make the veil thinner. We let the light spread wider. And that is how the field operates when one soul awakens another. This is the moment of return, not a return to who you were, but a return to who you truly are. The veil is no longer a wall, it is only an invitation, and awakening is the answer your soul gives to it. Vibration is not a spiritual term, it is the foundational language of the field. Everything that exists vibrates at its own frequency. Your body vibrates through emotion, your mind vibrates through thought, your soul vibrates through awareness. When one of these three changes, the entire frequency changes. And when the frequency changes, reality responds in a completely different form. This is not belief. This is the mechanism that has been operating long before you were born and continues operating whether you pay attention to it or not. Resonance is the phenomenon of the field responding to what you are emitting. You do not need to beg, hope, or demand. You only need to send the signal. A fearful thought creates a low vibration and the field brings situations that maintain that vibration. A trusting idea emits a strong vibration and the field begins adjusting possibilities to make it real. There are no exceptions. You do not live in a world of action alone. You live in an energetic feedback system. The code is the structure of vibration. Every thought, every word, every internal state is a data stream sent into the field. When you complain about lack, you are programming the code of lack. When you define yourself by old limits, you are sending the code of restriction. When you look at life through the eyes of the observer, you are sending the signal of awareness. Whether spoken or not, the code is activated. The field does not read words. The field reads frequency. Therefore, the first principle of those who know how to operate vibration is understanding that you cannot send the signal of lack and expect to receive abundance. You cannot emit the vibration of doubt and expect to receive trust. You cannot live in fear and expect life to open the door of freedom. The field always responds to the exact code you send. When the code changes, everything changes. Many people think they need to force themselves into positive thoughts or repeat affirmations to change vibration. But vibration does not respond to empty words. It responds to the deeper layer, the layer of state. Words can be fake, but vibration cannot. You can say you trust, but if deep inside you are still anxious, the signal sent is still anxiety. That is why change does not begin with what you say. It begins with reaching the deeper layer where vibration is created. Resonance happens when you become the frequency of what you want. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to try to get it. When you are at the right frequency, what you seek moves toward you. You think it is opportunity, but it is simply the field responding to your code. You think it is luck, but it is only the result of resonance. When you live in the vibration of abundance, the field cannot close the doors meant for you. When you live in the vibration of fear, the field cannot place you in the timeline of freedom. Vibration creates the path, resonance adjusts that path, and the code is the language between you and the field. These three elements operate like a formula. When one element is out of alignment, the entire system shifts. When all three align, your being becomes the key that unlocks every possibility. When you change the internal code, you are changing the deepest layer of the field. And that is why reality cannot do anything except move with you. There are people who walk into a room and everything changes even if they say nothing. That is resonance. There are people whose presence alone makes you feel peaceful or uneasy. That is vibration. There are people who think of something and it begins moving toward them. That is the code. They are not playing with luck. They are operating with the mechanism of the field. Vibration is the voice of the body. When the body feels something is right, it expands. When something is wrong, it contracts. No reason needed, no analysis. The body is the first antenna of awareness. It senses vibration before the mind understands. Sudden intuitions, strange sensations in the chest, moments when you feel something is coming. None of these are random. That is vibration sending signals. Resonance is harmony with the field. When you meet someone and feel like you have known them forever, that is two codes interacting. When an opportunity appears at the exact time, that is your timeline touching another. When you hear a sentence that awakens you, that is your vibration being activated. Resonance is not only reception. It is the collision of two compatible frequencies. The code is the map of the soul. It determines what you attract, what you overcome, what you connect with. No one shares the same code. No one vibrates the same, and no one has the same doorway. When you update your code, you update the map of your life. The old code leads to old lessons. The new code leads to new timelines. Every time you step into a higher awareness, the code recalibrates. The most remarkable thing about vibration, resonance, and code is that you are not limited by the past. Vibration is not fixed. Resonance is not fixed. Code is not fixed. They all change when you change. And when you change, the field must respond. It cannot do otherwise. You do not need to convince the world to adjust. You only need to adjust yourself. And from that moment on, reality no longer happens randomly. It becomes the precise reflection of the vibration you live in. Fear is not the enemy. It is the final gatekeeper before every doorway of transformation. Every soul on the awakening journey meets its own darkness. No one steps into higher awareness without touching the deepest place within themselves. Darkness does not make you weak. It makes you honest. It shows you where you are still running from yourself. Fear is the first signal that a door is about to open. The nature of fear is not in its appearance. Its nature lies in how you face it. When you see fear as a sign that you are not strong enough, you shrink. When you see fear as a sign that you are moving closer to what is right, you open. Fear is the final test of the field. It asks whether you are ready to step into the next version of yourself, and you overcome it only by looking directly at it. Shadow is the same. Shadow is not your weakness. It is the part you hid because you once believed it did not deserve to be seen. Shadow is the place left behind in the unconscious, where pain, rejection, shame, and old wounds live. Shadow does not want to destroy you. Shadow only wants to be acknowledged by you. When you fight the shadow, it becomes a curse. When you embrace it, it becomes power. The alchemy of fear and shadow happens when you stop resisting. Fear cannot harm you when you look straight at it. Shadow cannot control you when you name it. What makes fear powerful is running away. What makes shadow darker is denial. You do not need to fight them. You only need to walk into them with awareness. Remember this. Fear always stands before the important doors. Every leap in your life comes with a fear beside it. The fear of love, the fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear of failure, the fear of seeing the truth. Fear does not come to hold you back. Fear comes so you can confirm that you are ready to move forward. When you move through fear, your timeline changes. You step into a different reality. The alchemy of shadow happens when you shine the light of awareness onto it. Shadow does not disappear. It dissolves into you and becomes your strength. Shadow helps you see the limits of the ego. It shows you the places where you are still operating from old memory. It reveals what you have not dared to face. But when you open to the shadow, you are no longer controlled by it. You become your own master. Fear and shadow are two energetic codes that accompany every awakening process. Those who do not understand the mechanism of the field try to fight them. Those who understand how to operate the field walk into them, not to be swallowed, but to pass through. Because on the other side of fear is freedom. On the other side of shadow is your original self. Fear is the flame that burns the old stories. Shadow is the mirror that reflects the part of you that you forgot you carried. Alchemy happens only when you stay present. You cannot transform fear if you run. You cannot heal shadow if you avoid it. Fear wants you to stop long enough to realize it has no substance. Shadow wants you to stay still long enough to realize it is not the enemy. When you look deeply into fear, you see truth. When you look deeply into shadow, you see yourself. There is a subtle law of the field. What you resist becomes stronger. What you look at, you reclaim your power from. Fear and shadow exist only when you feed them energy. The more you push fear away, the more persistent it becomes. The more you hide your shadow, the larger it grows in your unconscious. But when you pause, breathe, and look directly at them, they begin to melt. The alchemy of fear and shadow is the transformation from instinct to awareness. Fear is no longer a prison. Shadow is no longer a secret. They become activation codes. When you move through fear, you open a door most people never cross. When you merge with shadow, you reclaim the pieces of strength you abandoned. Shadow is the forgotten part of the soul. When you hold it again, you become whole. You have seen people who carry extraordinary strength, not because they have no fear or shadow, but because they walked through them. They do not run. They do not deny. They turn fear into vision. They turn darkness into intuition. They are not people who never felt pain. They are people who turned pain into power. That is alchemy. If you look back at your life, every major turning point began with a fear. But you passed through it. You rose above it. Not because of luck, but because you chose not to let fear define you. Fear and shadow are not punishment. They are the final phase before rebirth. The field is always waiting for you on the other side of fear. Shadow is always waiting for you on the other side of awareness. When you stop seeing fear as an obstacle and shadow as something abandoned, you walk into the gate of alchemy. And from that moment, you are no longer defined by darkness or fear. You become the one who turned them into strength, into light, into the compass that guides your path. The world you see is not the whole picture. It is only the first layer of reality, a surface layer like a veil covering the field. Everything that unfolds before your eyes is only the final result of invisible movements happening behind it. When you do not realize this, you think life operates through coincidence and circumstance. But when you realize the world behind the world exists, you begin to see the true principle. The world behind the world is not a place you find with your eyes. It is a place you sense through awareness. What you see with your eyes is only the final form of energy that has already taken shape. Every word, every event, every person showing up in your life is a reflection of the energetic streams operating within the field. When you shift your awareness, the shape of reality shifts with it. Most people live only on the surface plane. They see a situation and think that is all there is. They see a failure and believe they are useless. They see a disappointment and think life is turning its back on them. They never look into the world behind the world, where every answer is waiting. Not because they lack ability, but because they were never taught to see with the eyes of the soul instead of the eyes of the ego. Reality does not operate through surface actions. It operates through deeper layers of energy, belief, and vibration. The world behind the world is where everything begins before you can see it. A coincidence that seems meaningless is the result of countless signals you sent out. A meeting that seems random is the result of a vibrational code you carry in your heart. A sudden shift in your life is the movement of a timeline that has already changed within the field. Nothing in your life comes from nowhere. Nothing is purely random. Every appearance has a cause, a code, and the resonance of deeper layers beneath it. When you see through the eyes of the observer, you begin to recognize the logic of the world behind the world. You no longer react to the surface. You learn to see through it. You release the question, why is this happening to me? You replace it with, what is this reflecting in me? If you observe closely, you will see every event carries guidance. A criticism is not an insult. It is a mirror. A failure is not an ending. It is a signal that you are moving in the wrong direction or have completed an old lesson. A person leaving is not a loss. It is a timeline shift. Everything is a message from the world behind the world trying to tell you that the time has come to upgrade your awareness. The field has never spoken through logic. The field speaks through signals, synchronicity, intuition, and vibration. When you understand this, you stop seeking answers in actions or words. You turn inward, where the world behind the world truly exists. Every answer is there. Every direction is there. Every possibility is there. The issue is not that the world hides from you. The issue is that you have been looking the wrong way. Remember this. Nothing in your life is just form. The people you meet, the places you go, the decisions you make, all come from the layer behind reality. This layer is the one that truly matters. When you learn to read the world behind the world, you cannot be fooled by the surface. A sentence may carry healing. A silent moment may carry the blueprint of your next transformation. A small choice may open a new timeline. The world behind the world is also where your true resources come from. You do not create opportunities through action alone. You create them by shifting vibration. Action is only the surface of a deeper movement. When you shift your vibration, the world behind the world restructures reality to respond to you. Events unfold. People appear, doors open. You do not chase life. Life shifts to align with you. One of the greatest mistakes humans make is believing the physical world is the real one. In truth, it is only the final layer, like a shadow that reveals nothing about the true nature of the object. What you see is only the consequence of what is invisible. But when you learn to read the world behind the world, you see the entire operating system. You know where change is needed. You know where limitation is hiding. You know what is guiding you off course. The world behind the world is not a realm separate from you. It is the deepest part of you. When you change at this layer, the entire timeline must change. You do not need to wait for the outside world to shift. You only need to shift the layer behind it. That is where reality is truly created. And that is why only those who dare to look into the world behind the world can step into the highest version of their life. Not because they are chosen, but because they look where the rest of the world does not. They are not fooled by the surface. They see the principles of the field operating beneath every second. And when you know the world behind the world exists, you no longer live as someone shaped by circumstances. You live as someone who shapes reality from the deepest layer of yourself. The return to source is not a journey to find something outside of you. It is the journey of turning inward to realize that you never left. Every experience, every lesson, every transformation is a spiral guiding you back to the original point of the soul. When you enter the field with deeper awareness, you begin to see the truth behind every movement. Nothing in this life is random. No choice is meaningless. Every event is a reminder that you are being guided back to where you truly belong. Source is not a destination. It is a layer of awareness you open within yourself. It does not call you through noise, but through the silence of intuition. When you feel a strange pull in your heart, when you feel yourself being drawn toward a more authentic version of who you are, that is Source reaching through every layer of reality to touch you. Source does not need you to be perfect. Source only needs you to be awake. The return begins the moment you stop believing you are disconnected from the field, because you have never been cut off from anything. It is only the mist of perception, the veil that makes you forget who you are. When this mist dissolves, you do not become someone new. You return to the essence your soul has always known. You become someone no longer defined by experience, but guided by awareness. The return to Source is also the moment you stop seeing life through the eyes of fear or lack. You begin to see everything through the lens of unity. You see others not as threats or competitors. They are fragments of the same field. You see challenges not as punishment. They are mechanisms of expansion. You see wounds not as signs of failure. They are bridges to growth. When you live in the vibration of Source, you see that every question has the same answer. When you return to yourself, every door opens. When you listen to the inner call, every obstacle dissolves. When you no longer chase the future or cling to the past, you begin to live fully in this moment. The present is where Source operates. The present is where every possibility waits. Source always knows how to guide you, sometimes through a crisis, sometimes through a stranger, sometimes through a silent moment you never understood. Every step you take, whether in light or darkness, moves you closer to your true essence. You cannot lose direction in the field. You can only forget that you are being guided. And when you remember, everything becomes clear. The return to Source is also the return to the wisdom of the soul. When you release temporary identities and old stories, you begin to live in clarity. You no longer ask the world what it must do for you. You look within and see that you are the source of everything. No one holds your key. No one can take your power. You open your own door. The most important realization is that the journey was never wrong. Every mistake, every loop, every delay had a purpose, not to weaken you, but to return you to a deeper version of yourself. When you understand this, you stop resenting the past. You see it as an essential part of awakening, and you understand that Source was always there, waiting for you to remember. At the moment you merge with Source, you no longer search for answers. You become the answer. You no longer ask why things happen. You see every event as a map guiding you into deeper layers of the field. This is the point where the journey and the traveler are no longer separate. This is the point where you do not just live in reality, you create it. The return to Source is not an ending. It is the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter in which you operate your life through awareness instead of reaction. A chapter in which you live with presence instead of fear. A chapter in which, you are not a victim of circumstances, but the creator of your own flow. Source does not give you a different reality. It gives you a different way of seeing. And when you change the way you see, everything changes with it. If you are reading this, know that you have traveled far. Not everyone has the patience to reach the end of this journey. This proves that you are ready to step into a new layer of awareness. Hold on to what you have activated in the field. Let it guide you in the days to come. Thank you for walking with Quantum Vault through this journey. Thank you for your presence, your openness, and your trust. May you continue forward with light in your heart, stillness in your mind, and the knowing that Source has never left you. May you live in the highest timeline of your life. May you remember that you have always been part of the light, always part of the field, always the origin of awakening.